Welcome back, everybody, to the show. I am your host, as always, J Villain, aka That Villain J. And tonight we have a very special treat for you. A little something different. A little something about Magic the Gathering and Arena and the decks that I play. I wanted to do a tier chart for what I think of the various character class enchantments. I think that they're probably the best addition in the D&D set. And that being said, some of them are clearly better than the others. I kind of wanted to give my thoughts on them, where I think you should allocate your wild cards, where I think it's worth it. And I've played all of these. I've had experience with all of them. And a lot of people wondering what they should invest in, what they shouldn't, and what's worth it and what's not. I figured I might as well go ahead and give my two thoughts on it and throw it on a tier chart and have a little fun with it. So, that being said, of course, I'm going to need you to tenderly press that like button, gently press that subscribe button, because if you don't, the like and subscribe will come and attack you and maul you with his vicious werewolf claws. For more content like this, you can join us on our stream every night at twitch.tv/thatvillainj. You can check out our Discord and tell me how I'm wrong and how I don't know what I'm talking about. Check that out in the description. And yeah, that's it. All my decks are also available on AetherHub, but we're not doing a deck tonight. We're doing the tier list, guys. We're doing the tier list. So I had these arranged by... I had these arranged at first by alphabetical order. Somehow they got out of alphabetical order. I don't know why. So let me just rearrange these here. So there are 12. There are 12 character classes. Some of them are double color, some of them are monocolor. Some are repeats of colors, some only have one. So we're going to take a look here. We're going to start in alphabetical order with Barbarian class. Now, Barbarian class is an interesting one because this one lets you roll d20 dice multiple times. It basically gives you advantage. If you know what advantage is from D&D, that's basically what it does. The problem is, this is a C class, okay? Because the first thing it does, it is useful when it is, but the two of its abilities are based on rolling dice. Going forward, or using this in a non-dice rolling deck is basically useless. Okay, so the first one is you roll 2 dice instead of 1 when you're rolling dice, and then when you roll a dice, target creature you control gets +2 and menace until the end of turn, which is not really that good of an bonus. So honestly, for dice rolling decks, it's very useful. But, I mean, for red decks in general, nobody's going to play this in just a standard red deck. Yeah, the ultimate is all creatures you control have haste. There's a lot better ways of doing that. There's cheaper ways of doing that. Barbarian is solidly in C. It's borderline D. I might have to revisit it. Starting weak with this one. Bard class. Now, I did tell a little bit of a fib when I said I've used all of these. I haven't used Bard class because it's so locked into that color scheme. It's Gruel. Legendary creatures you control enter the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on them. That is not very good. There's a lot better ways to add 1/1 counters to stuff. You could do Kalane, Reclusive Painter, and just use Treasure, and you've got a bunch of different varieties. So this is basically locked into 2 colors. You're going to have green and red for it, and it only applies to legendaries. Legendaries you cast cost 1 green and 1 red less. This only reduces the color amount of the color you're going to pay. So it only reduces red and green off of that red and green. And then whenever you cast a legendary spell, look at the top 2 cards of your library. You will play them this turn. This is an awful, awful. Bard class is terrible. I don't know who designed it. It should have been boosting everybody else up, but apparently they went with Bard telling stories of legends. Terrible. I don't know anybody who's even played with that. I've never played against anybody who's played with this card. I think it's tier D trash. Cleric. Let's put that right up there. Cleric, guys, for that 1 drop, if you gain life, you gain 1 more life. Always useful in white. White is always giving you colors. It's useful in Golgari. It's useful in Selesnya. I mean, not Golgari. It's useful in Abzan. It's useful in Selesnya. It's useful in Orzhov. There is not a situation where gaining more life is going to be detrimental, especially for 1 mana. Then you only have to pay 4, and whenever you gain a life, you put a 1/1 target counter on a creature you control. That is basically a uncommon version of Heliod, and since Heliod is going to rotate out, man, Cleric class is where it's at. I put Cleric class in just about everything. This is the staple seasoning. This is the salt and pepper of any white card you're going to play. And you have something very rare, which is White Resurrection. You pay 5, and when this class becomes level 3, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield and gain life equal to its toughness. Amazing, amazing card. Direct Battlefield Resurrection for 5. Yes, please. S tier Cleric all the way. Druid. Druid is solid B. Druid is a little specific. Here's the thing. Druid is a little specific. Whenever you put a life down, you gain one. Whenever you put a land down, you gain 1 life. That's the first thing. It costs 2, and it's green. And then you may play an additional land each turn. That's good. But again, it's kind of specific to playing a certain type Selesnya or mono green. It's not really going to be good in Gruul. It might be a little useful in Golgari. It kind of focuses on land drops, and then when it becomes level 3, you get to turn a land into a creature, which is fine. It's a solid B card. It's on theme. It's really between A and B. I don't think it's A just because its utility isn't there, but it's certainly average. It's not bad. I've used it. So yeah, Druid class can go into B tier there. Let's see here. Fighter. You search your library. It is Boros. So I'm gonna rate anything that is a double color is locking you into, I think, too unflexible of a color combination. So I think that Fighter is very on theme. Again, like Druid class, it's perfectly themed. Fighters use equipment. They use heavy armor. They use swords. You gain all sorts of abilities. You get to search for an equipment, which is useful. Then equipped abilities are 2 less. And then when a creature when a creature you control attacks, you can make it fight somebody. You can make somebody else block it permanently, which is nice, but is not overly utilitarian. There's so much equipment that attaches itself automatically. There's like Relic Axe and all sorts of stuff from Zendikar and Maul the Skyclaves that automatically attaches itself, that you don't really need to pay attachment costs. Even leather armor, the first time you attach it, is free. So there's not too much that really needs that cost reduction for 2. Searching for a piece of equipment is nice, but that level 2 is not very good, and that level 3 is not very good. It's still on theme, so it gets a B tier. Monk class. Taking a little drink there. Monk class is an interesting one as well because we're also locked into an Azorius. I almost want to put Monk in A because of how useful it is, but the thing is it's so specific a type of class. It's such a specific type of thing. So it's Azorius, and it's a second spell Azorius costs 1 less. So you are completely locked into playing second spell Azorius or second spell Jeskai or second spell Esper, anything second spell, and it's got to have blue and white in it, unless you're doing some really tricky stuff with mana. You're really locked in. You can return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, which is very useful. Which kind of makes a theme for it to be A, because that's 2 and 2. You can kick any non-land permanent back. And then at the beginning of your upkeep, exile the top card of your library for as long as it remains exiled. You may cast this card as long as you've cast another spell this turn. So it really focuses on that second spell thing. Level 2 is really the only utilitarian thing. I did a deck with this. If you want to see it, it's in the description. I'm going to put all the decks that I've done with all these different cards in the description so you can see how they act. But its color, it should be A tier. It really should. It's very well made. It's not really on theme. I guess moving fast and getting extra attacks every turn is kind of the monk class themes. But just because it's so restrictive with that blue, I would have loved to see it blue or white. You know what I mean? That flex mana cost, that you could do either one. I would have loved to see that to kind of elevate it and not so heavily focused on second spells. But solidly, it works. It definitely works. Paladin. Paladin definitely goes in A tier. It's good. It's great. It's not perfect. Spells your opponents cast on your turn cost 1 more to cast. Stacking multiple of these is where it's going to be efficient. So it's kind of giving you that Paladin's aura initially, where casting spells, opponents casting spells on your turn cost them more. If you're already playing something like a White Lockout or a Denial or an Azorius, it's very useful. And then its secondary ability, where all creatures you control get +2, +1/+1 for only 3 mana. That's basically a Glorious Anthem. It's basically a better Glorious Anthem, because you only pay 1 now and then pay 1 later. Casting spells against your creatures all cost 1 more, and of course everybody gets 1/1. The 5th ability is okay. +1 for each other attacking creature, and Double Strike is powerful, but it does cost 5. But all around a solid choice for Paladin here. If you're really playing an Azorius or a White Lockout or Denial, any kind of, even Orzhov Denial or anything like that, it's a solid card. If you're going to play Rally of the Ranks or you're going to play Glorious Anthem, why not play this one? This is just as good. I think it's just as efficient and just as useful. So definitely A tier with that one. Ranger, guys. Ranger's OP, bros. I'm sorry. We're going all the way to the top with this one, folks. Ranger is S tier. When Ranger enters the battlefield, 2/2 wolf creature token, and then only 2 next turn, +1 on each on a target attacking creature. That means on turn 3 you can attack with a 3/3 wolf. And then its scout ability. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast a creature spell from the top of your library. As long as creature spells are at the top of your library, you can just cast them. You can just keep putting out creature spells as long as they're at the top of your library. If you combine this with a little bit of scry, especially from heavy scry from a dungeon, like Dungeon of the Mad Mage, where it lets you scry 3, you can stack your deck to just crap out creatures like crazy, like machine gun them out. Don't forget that every time you're attacking, you're adding +1/+1 to whatever attacking creature. You combine this with any kind of Selesnya build, where even combining it with Cleric, where whenever you gain life, you gain +1/+1, you're going to be doing amazing stuff. You're going to be going nuts. Ranger class is probably one of the most strongest character classes out there. Just that ability, creating a 2/2 wolf for 2 mana is already worth it, and then paying 2 to level it up and getting that ability. Spread that out over 2 turns, 4 mana. Absolutely unbelievably efficient. Absolute banger of a card. I recommend this for any green or green combo class. If green's in the deck, you should be running Ranger. I mean, that's the long and short of it. Rogue. Rogue is a fun one. Rogue is hard to say. So I want to put Rogue. Here's the thing. I think I'm going to have to put it B tier. I know I'm leaning heavily on B tier because I have to say all of the character classes are good. They're all good. They all have their own unique things. Taking a drink there. But some of them are so specific. I think Rogue, being a Dimir is a good chance for Rogue, so it does act like a Rogue. So what you basically do is if you damage somebody, you take the top card of the library, put it under Rogue, it gets exiled. Then creatures you control have Menace, which is nice. I don't really see Rogues being menaced. They're not really scary. They're more sneaky. I guess Rogues intimidate. I would have thought it more interesting that Rogues have Death Touch or something like that. And then you can play cards. So they kind of made Rogue a scary thief, which is okay, but there's other things that Rogues do. So basically you steal cards, you become scary, and then ultimately you can play the stuff that you stole. You can use the stuff that you stole from the top of their deck back to them using any colored mana. It's good, but it's very specific. That's what really stops it from going into A tier, is that it's very situational, and again, you've got that double cost. I would have loved if they made a flexi cost on these guys, if they would have made blue-black and blue-black or something like that. So they did have a little bit more utility, because when we're talking about these character classes, ultimately we're talking about the utility of them. Are they worth putting in a 60-card deck? And when you're talking about 60 cards, you're really talking about 20 cards. Because if you're talking about 2 copies of each one in mana, you've got 20 cards to put in a deck. Are they worth one of those slots of those 20 cards, or even 10 cards? Is it really worth it to stack them? S tier is really going to be the ones that, yes, it's absolutely worth it. Is it worth it to put Rogue Class in? I don't know if it is. I think it's solid B for that. It's situational, it's useful, but man, I don't know if it's going to be useful in every deck. It's certainly better than Barbarian and Bard, but it doesn't strive to one of these great ones. Sorcerer. I've used a little bit of Sorcerer. It has kind of drifted away from its original purpose. I honestly can't even remember what the hell this does. You draw 2 cards, and then you discard 2 cards. Creatures you control add mana to you, so you kind of add mana. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, the spell deals damage to each opponent, blah, 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 blah. So it's really a spell casting card. It helps you cast spells. That's a hard one, man. It's hard to say that this is super useful. Again, we're locked into a specific thing here. You know what? Compared to Barbarian, it is better than Barbarian. But compared to the other ones, I don't think it's that useful. It is basically just an is it spellcasting, counter spells, burns, and stuff like that. So it's extremely situational. Again, it's got to go in the extremely situational spot right there. And you know what? Comparatively seeing these other ones, I got to kick Druid up to A. I think Druid absolutely is on brand and on theme. And I think that being situational doesn't really take it away. I think that'll fit anywhere in a green deck or any kind of green combo deck. I think it is useful. Probably more in Selesnya, but I think it does what it's supposed to do. And I think comparing what these do to what Druid does, this is really more useful. Playing 2 lands a turn, gaining 1 life basically every turn if you're going to be playing a mana is a lot more useful than being able to tap your creatures for mana, especially locked into an is-it-only deck. Warlock, guys. Now we're down to the good stuff here. Warlock. We're going all the way up, guys. We're going up the elevator. There it is. Warlock is probably one of the best character classes, and I didn't expect it to be because I never play Warlocks in D&D. I don't really care for that style or whatever that they have with the hexes and the things and the packs and stuff, but man, at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, each opponent loses 1 life. That's not your creature who dies. Anybody's. Not yours, not theirs. If a creature has died, which creatures are always dying in Magic, they always die, it's basically a constant life drain for 1 black mana. If you stack 4 of these in a deck, they're going to wish that they're not losing creatures. You can stack this with sacrifice creatures. You can sacrifice your own creatures to make this go down. Then you have the level 2. Look at the top 3 cards of your library, 1 of them into your hand, and 2 of them in your graveyard. If you're playing black, you don't care about cards going in your graveyard, because if you're a savvy black mage, you should have plenty of resurrection or necromancy to bring that stuff back. Black never cares about stuff going in its graveyard. Oftentimes, black wants stuff in its graveyard. If you're playing King Narfi, if you're playing a Dimir, play Warlock and try to throw King Narfi into your graveyard every time you play Warlock class. That way you can play him for cheaper from the graveyard. So absolutely not a detriment to throw those cards in your graveyard and get whatever card off the top 3 of your deck. If you're mana blocked, if you're not getting good spells, that is an amazing thing. And then, probably the only downside, but it is an amazing ability. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent loses life to the amount of life they already lost this turn. Now, it costs 7 to activate this. But as an end game, this is horrible. So any damage they've taken or life loss... any damage they've taken or life loss is doubled. So if they lost 6 life, they're losing 6 more life at the end of turn. That means damage, that means loss of life. If you gain 1 life and they lose 1 life, it is absolutely brutal. Is it hard to get to that power of Warlock? Absolutely it is. But that is a game ender right there. If you let them activate, if they let you activate level 3, they are pretty much have a death sentence hanging above their head. because chances are you're going to be able to get some sort of damage off and just keep draining the hell out of them. Absolutely useful for that effect. So Warlock is easily an S tier with Cleric and Ranger. Probably some of the best ones are, these three are by far the best one. Last, we have Wizard class. Wizard is C tier, guys. I haven't really seen anybody using it. 1 mana, you have no maximum hand size. I have never cared about not having maximum hand size. The only time that I've ever cared about that is if you're drawing tons and tons and tons of cards and you need 1 million cards to cast 1 million spells. And then level 2 for, I think for 3, you just draw 2 cards. There's so many cheaper ways to get cards. It's going to cost you 4 mana to draw 2 cards. And then whenever you draw a card, you put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. Yeah, it takes a lot to get there, my man. Wizard, it's taken a lot for me to get there, so you can pull off a lot of tricks where, oh yeah, well, whenever I draw cards, now I'm going to draw 10 cards, and now I'm going to draw 20 cards because I played into the story, or something like that. I'm going to draw 6 cards, so I'm going to put 1/1 counters all over everything, and I don't have a maximum hand size. Yeah, kind of by the time you get there, there's a lot of other stuff going on. You haven't been playing a lot of spells because you've been spending all your mana leveling this up. I can kind of see this working in an Izzet or Dimir Shell, where you really have to draw a lot of cards, and card draw and knowledge. That's kind of the thing. It's on theme. It's Wizard class, but again, it's so situational. I can never see myself really brewing something around this. It is nice that it's an uncommon and it's only 1 blue to put down, but I just feel like there's better ways you could be using your mana and your time aside from sinking them in Wizard class. It's not low tier trash like Bard that's just not useful, but it's almost as bad as Barbarian. I mean, Barbarian at least has a saving grace that at least one specific type of spell is gonna work well with it. But even this, it's so narrow, man. It's just barely saving itself from D because there is a deck build that you can build around it. But there's not a lot of utility here, I don't think. Compared to just gaining 1 more life every turn, or when somebody dies, they lose a life. No maximum hand size just can't hold up. So all in all, I think that the classes are pretty good. We have more on the better side than we do have on the bad side. So generally speaking, they are all fairly powerful. I would recommend using them. I'd love to see more of this as we go forward. I don't know if they'll ever do that, but I'd love to see some advanced classes. I'd love to see some prestige classes. This is a really fun idea of leveling up a power level for your character, essentially what you're speccing in or cross-classing in. I think it's a really cool and useful thing. And I really like these top ones. I think these ones are going to be stuck in the format for a while. These S and A tier ones are definitely going to be stuff you're going to be sitting around for a while. These you'll see in more situational decks. You'll see them in certain specific builds that want to do that. Obviously, Monk class, anytime you're doing a second spell deck, that's going to be there. If you're doing a Boros equipment, that's going to be there. But it's not going to end up in every deck. I wouldn't imagine that every deck, almost every white life gain deck is going to have Cleric in it, and every black sacrifice deck is going to have Warlock in it. So, I mean, or vice versa. Every Ranger, every Stompy Green is going to have Ranger in it. These are such tight representations of the format, of the specific color that they represent, that I think they just go along with every deck that goes with them. That's a shame that we don't have a really good mono red and we don't have a really good mono blue, that they missed the mark so far. You can see that I've downgraded all these Bs, the double colors, just because their utility is so limited. The single colors are where it's at. I wish we had more single colors. I wish we had better blue and red single colors to put up there, but I think they did a good job. Gruul got totally shafted with this Bard. I've never seen anybody use or like. I'm sure it has some utility if you want to make a Gruul Legend deck, maybe in Commander or something like that. Gruul Legends would be really cool, but for what I'm doing, standard best of 1, I don't think I'm ever going to touch this thing, especially not at a rare price. It's not worth the wild card. So that is my tier, guys. Tell me what you think. Tell me why you think I'm wrong. Leave me a comment. leave a like on the video, join us on the stream, we'll do more content like this, and please, if you do like this kind of alternative comment, meta commentary about the state of the game, tier lists about stuff from D&D, stuff like that, please let me know. Leave a comment about that, leave a message, hit the like video, hit the like on the video, and let me know that, yeah, aside from deck videos, we can do other stuff like this. So, yeah, I've been Jay Villain, and you've been great. Tell me what you think, guys. Bye-bye.